Good evening and welcome to True Dogman Encounters. I'm your host, Marvin Allen. If you or anybody that you've known have had a Dogman encounter and would like to share it with me on my channel, please contact me. I would love to hear from you. As y'all know, I did start a Facebook Live page that I will be doing twice a week. Now, I know I haven't been uploading my new encounters, but that's something that I'm gonna start doing again from now on because this is something that I love to do. Last year was a rough year for me. You know, I lost a lot. I lost a whole lot, but I can't let what me losing stop me from doing what I love to do most. And that's sharing these encounters. So without further ado, we're gonna jump right into this next encounter. Now, this next encounter happened in southern Missouri. Guy went up there to go deer hunting. So now the name that I'm gonna use for him, I'm gonna call him Philip because anonymity means a lot to me. So I will never use anyone's name unless they ask me or tell me to. Now, Philip goes up in this spot up here where he usually go at when he go deer hunting. He said when he get to this spot, he said in the beginning when he get there, he can hear, animals, insects and all that. He said then he got this strange feeling like everything just went dead quiet. It went silent, and he said plus it was getting dark. So he decided, just to pack up and leave and just go back to his cabin. So when he get to his cabin, he goes in, he fix him something to eat, then he come out to smoke him a cigarette. He said when he go back outside and smoke his cigarette, he said he noticed something in the distance that he can hear. And he hear like sticks being broke. And he noticed he don't see nothing on the ground. So he's thinking that it must be up in the tree because the breaks is coming high up in the trees, but he don't see anything. He said, so he don't pay it no attention. He said it must be some kind of animal or something, a raccoon or something. That's what's going through his head, but he don't really know. He said, then he heard this thumping sound. Boom, and it hit the ground. He said when this sound hit the ground and made that sound, he said he just see this dark silhouette just shoot and just fly through the tree line. He said he don't know what it was. He just know it was a dark shadow. So he finished his cigarette. He goes back in the house. He goes to sleep. The next day, he gets up. He goes back and he go hunting again, because he out there trying to hunt deer. So while he was out there, he said he can hear all the sounds of animals and insects and all that. He said so when he get to his blind spot, he said he looks through his scope. And when he looked through his scope, he spot one deer. And he looking at this deer through the scope. And right when he was getting ready to shoot, he said he see that deer head flinch and turn, and then it just bolted in the opposite direction. He takes the scope of his rifle and he moves it around. That's when he spots this dark figure. He said when he put the scope on this dark figure, he noticed that it was all black. He said it looked like a black wolf to him. He said, but this thing was too large to be one of them. So he looking. He said this dark figure was by a tree and it was just sniffing. He said this thing was just taking its nose and moving it up in the air and it's like it was sniffing. So he watching this dark figure through the scope and he's still looking at it. He said, then this thing tilted his head around and it sniffed in his direction. He said, that's when this thing stood up on its back legs. He going up on the scope. He watching this thing and he's tilting his gun up because he watching how tall this thing is because it's standing up on its back legs. He said when it stands up, it's still sniffing the air. Then it pushes his head down and it looks over in his direction. Now, mind you, He's behind a blind. So he do have some type of cover. But he's still watching this creature that he sees now. He said when this creature put his head down and it looks over in his direction, it starts to walk. It starts to walk in his direction. Then he hear a noise again. The noise came from his left. He switched the scope to the left. When he switched it back to the left, he spots that deer again. But it was a little further off in the distance, but he spots it again. Then he goes back to where this creature was at. He said when he put that scope back on his creature, that's when this creature dropped back down on all fours and it bolted in the direction of where that deer was. Now, mind you, now he put the scope and he's watching this thing chase this deer because the deer took off and it's running. But this thing was on it. I mean, chasing this thing. So he's saying in his mind, what the did I just see? What was that? So he takes the scope back off of them and he's scanning, the tree line in the wood area to see what else out there. He sees nothing else. So he packs up, he goes back to his cabin. Now he's in his cabin. He's saying to himself, what did I just see? What is that thing out there? Because he don't know what it is. All he know is that something that looks like a wolf stood up on his back legs. And he said this thing was muscular and it was massive. Said this thing was huge. So he's sitting in his house. He's thinking like, what am I gonna do now? Do I stay here or do I leave? He said, maybe this thing gone. That's what he thought. He said later on that night, he goes out again. He has another cigarette, goes out to smoke. See, while he was standing out there smoking again, he can hear something walking, coming through the tree line. And it's heavy because he can hear it breaking sticks, branches, twigs, and all that. Boom, 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 boom. He said then it stopped. When it get about 10 feet from the edge of that tree line that he could see, it just stopped. The footsteps just stopped. He opened up his door and he grabs his rifle. He puts it in his hand. He's looking. That's when he hear the footsteps again. This time, it's going to the right. It walks to the right. And when it walks to the right, it stops again. Now he's paranoid. Now he don't know what to do. But he still got his rifle in his hand. The footsteps starts up again. So it starts to walk again. This time it's coming towards the tree line. It's coming out. And when it comes near the tree line, it stops near a tree. And it stands there. And it looks over at him. And when it looks over at him, it started to growl. And when it started to growl, he backs up towards his door. And when he backs up towards his door, he got rifle in hand. This thing started to walk out the tree line. And when it walks out the tree line, it stops. And when it stops, it started to sniff the air again. And when it sniffed the air, it tilted his head to the right. And just to the right, on the other side, just inside of those tree lines, he see a raccoon. And when this thing saw this raccoon, this thing dropped down to all fours and it ran. So he said he never seen nothing move that fast before. Said this thing ran so fast over there and grabbed that raccoon. Said that raccoon didn't even see it coming. And he grabbed it. And he said this thing just grabbed that raccoon. When it grabbed it, he said it just held it up in one hand. Yeah. He said this thing grabbed it with that hand. And he said it gutted it. It just gutted it from his stomach, and you could just see the entrails just fall and just fall out this thing. And he's watching this thing do this. He said, and when it did that, it took that raccoon and it slung it over there near his cabin. And when it did that, it just walked back up into the tree line and disappeared into the night. He went back in the cabin. Now he's saying that he should leave because he don't know what he dealing with. He don't know if any more of these things is out here because he just seen what this thing did to this raccoon. So the next day when he get up, he packs everything up. He packs everything up and he's leaving. So he leaves. He's driving back. He said, but as he was driving out of that place, he heard this howl that was so loud and powerful that he knew it had to come from this creature. And he said he never, ever been back out there again. And I asked him, I said, well, what did this thing look like to you? He said this thing, it looked like it was a black wolf. He said, but this thing was built like a human would be built, with arms, shoulders, and hands. Said you could see the muscle definition on this thing. He said he never saw nothing like that in his life. He said, so if somebody was to tell him that these things existed before, he would have called them a liar. He said, but after seeing these things, he know that they out here. He know that they are in these state parks. He said, so he would never call nobody a liar ever again, because he know what he saw in southern Missouri. And that was his encounter. It wasn't that long. I mean, it was kind of short, but I just want to put some of these out here so y'all can have something to listen to and some things that I can upload. So I'm going to go ahead and upload that one, and hope you enjoy it. So see y'all on the next encounter.